Superhost is amazing. I absolutely love this. This is the 2021 film directed and written by Brandon Christensen, and this stars Sara as Claire, Osric Chau as Teddy, and Gracie Gillam as Rebecca. And for the most part, there won't be any spoilers, but I think towards the end I might share a few spoiler thoughts, and those spoilers are all positive as well, but I'll give a warning for when I'm getting to that. Claire and Teddy are vloggers, and they have this series where they stay in different rental apartments, and create content out of it. And they're staying in this house owned by Rebecca. And as soon as they meet Rebecca, things are a little bit uneasy. Really tiny things start to go wrong with the house, and there are peculiar things happening. Nothing too extreme, nothing that would cause any red flags. But then things begin to escalate, and I will say no more than that at the moment. But I had high hopes for this. It sounded really interesting. Often films about vloggers can be really irritating, and the characters can be really obnoxious and insufferable. So sometimes with these films they don't work well, but that is absolutely not the case here. The vloggers, Claire and Teddy, were actually really likeable people, and I really enjoyed the characters. Their performances are really good. And then we have Rebecca. She is a really fascinating character, and Gracie Gillam's performance is one of the most wonderful things I've ever seen. Her performance was fantastic, very high energy. I don't know if she's ever been in a Christmas film, but she would make a fantastic elf in a Christmas film. That's absolutely the energy I was getting, and that's not what I was expecting from a horror film. But when you watch it, it works really well. She's just a wonderful character. Well, wonderful is maybe not the right word there, because she's very unsettling, but she's just so compelling to watch, and I think the performance there is just one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. I was so impressed with that. It's not necessarily the kind of character I was expecting Claire and Teddy to come up against, but it's just wonderful. And honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed every second that Rebecca was on the screen, which is pretty much the whole film. There are, of course, times when it's just Claire and Teddy, because it would be a bit weird if your rental's host was there 24/7, but we're not too far off it. And I don't want to say too much more. I don't want to give too much else away, but I'll just say that the narrative was brilliant. It was very eerie. It's loud in a lot of places, but in a way that actually works really well. And I say that because a lot of horrors will just randomly turn the volume up every now and then to try and, I guess, cause a jump scare. But actually, while there are some jump scares in this, the sound itself is so sinister, and it blends in so perfectly, and I think they did a great job of that, of turning the volume up but making it fit well with what was going on, rather than just having loudness for the sake of loudness. I think the horror definitely comes mostly from jump scares and unpredictability, mostly with the character of Rebecca not knowing what is around the corner, literally, figuratively. It is very suspenseful, very surprising, and incredibly well done. And I will now, with a spoiler warning, discuss what happens at the very end. So this is a huge spoiler for what happens at the end, but this is something I want to praise, so I want to talk about it. I don't have anything else left to say other than definitely check it out. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and honestly, the character of Rebecca was so compelling that I'd be keen to watch this again. And I rarely watch the same horror film twice, because once you know what happens next, it does take away, in my opinion, a substantial amount of the horror elements. But actually, that character and that performance was so brilliant that I would actually be quite interested in watching it again at some point. Definitely check it out at least once, though. It is pretty fantastic. So, huge spoiler for something that happens right at the end, because it amused me a lot. At the very end, Rebecca sees on the computer that the video that Claire had uploaded asking for help from her subscribers had gone live. And there is this kind of brief moment in Rebecca's eyes where she begins to panic because Claire has just uploaded a video saying that her host, Rebecca, is a murderer. As I said, these are spoilers. And I thought, hang on, is this it for Rebecca? Or is it her time? Because we've just seen her, in theory, get away with some pretty hefty crimes. And that's kind of unnerving. And I thought, okay, this is how she's not going to get away with it. And I found it so amusing. Every single comment on that video was saying clickbait, unsubscribed. I think one of them called it trash or garbage or something. And I just love the fact that it's kind of making fun at the fact that vloggers will upload content that is clearly fabricated, that is clearly made for clicks, for views, and kind of like saying it's a bit of a boy who cried wolf situation if you constantly do these extravagant, ridiculous, clickbaity videos and upload this kind of content all the time just to get the views. When something does happen, people aren't going to believe you because you've cried wolf one too many times. And I just thought that was very amusing. So I really enjoyed that part. And it's actually not how I was expecting it to end. I didn't know how it would end. Well, when Claire started to upload the video, I thought that it might seem a little bit too quick to be realistic, but I thought that somebody would take the video seriously, they'd call the police, they know where she and Teddy are staying, and they'd be saved. And that's not what happened. So that took me by surprise. And then I thought Teddy was playing dead. Because towards the end, Rebecca finds Teddy slumped against the car, presumably dead, and she turns her back on him to film herself in the camera. And I thought he was faking being dead, so at the last second, with her back turned to him, he would kill her, do something to hurt her at the very least, and then get in the car and, drive off. And that didn't happen as well. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that didn't happen. It's just every time I thought what was going to happen next was so clear, or at least in my mind was going to be predictable, it never ever was. And I love that. There's so many horror films that are so predictable, and as long as it's scary, I don't really mind it being predictable, or as long as it's intense or gripping or compelling. If it's predictable, fine, whatever. But when it's like this, and we have this incredible character with its amazing performance, and everybody's performance was great, and it's very well filmed, the use of sound is perfect, it's brightly lit as well. So many horror films turn the lights down because they think it makes it a dark, spooky, creepy atmosphere. I actually prefer, generally speaking, brightly lit films, horrors, because I feel like that makes things, first of all, easier to see. So if there is a threat, unless we're talking spiritual horror, in which case, yeah, you kind of need the lights down to see the ghosts in most situations. But I prefer things brightly lit. I want to see the menacing figure standing before me. I want to be able to see the bloodshed, and I don't want to have to squint and strain my eyes to try and get a glimmer of what on earth's going on. And this is so brightly lit, and they work with that so beautifully. I have nothing but praise for this film. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. I know I've now spoiled how it ends, but as I said, even though I now know how it ends, I think I want to go back and watch it again. Not immediately, but certainly at some point. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Superhost is a fabulous film. I loved every second of it, and I thoroughly recommend it.